part 2 to a video I have pinned on my TikTok about disrespectful generation. A generation of children who dishonors and disrespects their mother, their father, or both parents. And it's not okay.
Right out of the gate, let's cut this off. No contact. I'm snarky sparky today. I've been making videos for what feels like hours right now. They aren't children. They are adults. And that is where a lot of this problem begins. Well, it began in the beginning. Let's be real. Emotionally immature parents, personality disordered parents, and all the things. This is not me forgetting about all that. The foundation was broken. We understand that. That being said, we are talking about a generation of adults. Let's be clear. And we are also talking about a generation of parents who cannot stand it when their adult sons and daughters push back, have an opinion, find their voice. Oh, you're different. You're talking to me that way now, and all the things. They can't stand it because they're not evolving into a relationship with adult sons and daughters. They're staying in a relationship with their children. So right out of I'm going to have a little difficulty on this one. I hope you stick with me. These are not children. And it's not this generation. This has been going on since the beginning of time. These struggles, these fractures, these estrangements have been going on since the beginning of time. I estranged before the internet existed because I am that old. It has been over 30 years. And there are a lot of people out there just like me. I screen recorded this video, in the beginning of October somewhere. And so just so you know, I don't remember anything that she says in it and don't know if I have the part 1. So you're going to get whatever I have because I don't know how much I'm going to be able to take of her, like 15 seconds into her video. Okay. Let's do it.
And it's not okay. I want to get out of the way first about the individuals who were triggered upon seeing my first video in reference to this topic. And they were flipping out about how respect is earned and how their parent is so toxic or their parents are so toxic. And
respect is earned for sure. Respect is also modeled. As children, we don't understand that respect is earned. Everything that we learn as small children is based on what we see and what we experience, and then what is said. And so if we aren't being given respect and we're being told we must be respectful, well, what do we know that looks like? How do we know what that looks like? We don't. We know their definition of respect. Obedience isn't respect. And I don't think she understands that. Respect is something that works back and forth. It's about listening, caring, holding space, not browbeating somebody into submission. Being able to hear the things that you don't want to hear and still be quiet and attentive and open anyway. Being able to understand that, respect isn't about, I'm going to go back to the same word. It's the same word. It's not about obedience and silence and compliance. All the words. I'm going to all the words.
And if they want respect, they better give it first. Since when was it permissible and when?
Actually, that's true. If we want our children, I'm talking about when they're children, to respect us, the very best way to get that respect is by treating them with respect. Because then it's not a matter of, putting something into action. It's something that just inherently exists and ebbs and flows back and forth. I don't think it's that complicated, really. She's complicating it because she's, again, not talking about respect.
Did it take place that children, young adults, think that they are the head of household and the parent? When did that happen? Because let me clear.
When did the children, young adults, she doesn't catch herself. She's doing this on purpose. She's diminishing and validating and infantilizing all in one brush on purpose. Push them back down. When did they have an opinion of their own that they dared to voice to us? What she's really talking about is she doesn't like boundaries, I betcha. I don't know if that's going to come into play here, but that's what that comes down to. It's not about who gives respect first. However, because babies don't have the ability to provide respect and know what it is or what it looks like, because we're forming and we're completely a bajillion % totally reliant on the modeled behavior of our main caregivers, usually our parents. The only way that we understand respect is how they define it for us. And so then when we become adults, young or otherwise, because she's so wise in her older age, she's probably around my age, I would guess. I don't know. She's got a filter going on. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. When, young adults, older adults, whatever it is, like, them looking for respect first, like, is it a competition or a race or something like that? No, she doesn't like that there are demands being made on her or requirements being made on her to have a healthy relationship, because she still wants to be large and in charge. And I wish I could remember what my thought was just a minute ago before I did this, but I don't. So if this seems a little disconnected, I'm sorry. My brain is not on full fire today. And I'm going to go with it because this is me.
Because let me clear something up first and foremost. Respect is not earned. Respect is not some kind of commodity that you can bargain with, you can trade off, that you can buy or demand. I repeat, respect is not earned. You see that? That word earned? Correction. Respect is not earned. It is taught. It is taught by example. It is taught and it comes out automatic. It flows out of you based on the love that you have for yourself and respect that you have for yourself. So you are readily able to give that to another person. So it's when an individual dishonors that free flow of love.
Oh my God, I thought she was going to get it for a second. Did you think so? I didn't see it going there. So she is full on admitting that it's taught. Who teaches it? She didn't admit to that. That it's free flowing, that it's built on the respect that we have for ourselves, which also is taught. Children are either taught that they are deserving of self-respect or not. That's part of our self-esteem, right? And if our parents are violating us, it's really hard to have any value in ourselves to respect ourselves in the first place, to even have a bar of the way that we treat ourselves that's any different than the way that we were taught we deserve or we were treated in, all of that. I bet you though, she's still going to go into the obedience thing of it, because she's not really talking about disrespect. She is talking about obedience.
That they are then to be held accountable, checked for that poor behavior. Love is unconditional, but it does not mean unconditional abuse. This generation of children have no understanding of the hardship, the pain, physical and mental, that they put their parent or parents through. And again, I will reiterate, I see this happening a lot with mothers being taken for granted and disrespected by their child or their children. Because first and foremost, mothers flow automatically with that nurturing quality. Now, let's set the record straight.
Yeah, my mother flowed me right out of a 2-story window when I was 5 or 6. That must have been automatic according to her. Mothers, right? I mean, she's not saying some. So all mothers automatically are self-sacrificing, nurturing, kind, loving, martyrs. I don't think she meant that. All the things. And somehow they are raising these disrespectful ass children, because I can just hear what's going on in the back of her head. Like, whereas, again, we go back to that accountability word, children do not raise themselves. And if you're raising children who are speaking to you in a way that let's talk about disrespect, actually what it is, okay? Because we talked about what respect is. If I tell somebody, even if I feel this way, that they are a fucking asshole, I am being disrespectful. I'm not sharing my feelings. I'm not caring about their feelings. I'm calling them names. I am degrading them. I am diminishing them. That is disrespectful. If I start yelling and screaming at someone, I am being disrespectful. I am showing them that I don't care about their feelings. And sure, it can happen because we're reactive, because maybe we're pushed into it. It doesn't change the fact that that behavior is disrespectful. And it's more disrespectful to ourselves to be drawn into something to the point where that happens. And I'm being careful how I word this as well, because we all know that there is something called reactive abuse, which I hate that label, because it's not reactive abuse in my mind. When we are reacting to someone who's pushing us into that defensive position, we are abusing them in return. So, like, I'm taking it very literally. And I think some other people have actually been talking about how we identify this and how it would probably be good to find a better way to, because we're reacting to something. We're not doing the same thing. Even though the action may look quite similar, it's coming from a place. Even so, though, other than, self-defense, if you're calling somebody a name because they're violating you and they're pushing you to the point where you lose your mind, and we've all been there, done that, I certainly have, and not proud of it, that isn't respectful. It is, by definition, disrespectful. It doesn't always mean it's unwarranted, though. It's just, for me personally, I don't like anyone to hijack me. I'm not going to say they never get to. I will say that if someone's hijacking me to the point that I devolve like that, likely I'm not going to be in a relationship with them for very long, because I'm sensitive to the fact, not oversensitive, sensitive, aware to the fact that different relationships bring out different qualities in me, different characteristics, personalities, things like that. And so I want to be in relationships where I bring out the best in the other person and they do the same. So anyway, I don't know where she's going, because again, I haven't heard this, and I'm even feeling a little word salady, but that could be my own brain in a jumble at this point.
Let's set the record straight. This video, just like my other one that's pinned at the top of this page, is focusing on the mother, the parents who actually love their children. Mothers are the nurturers.
Oh, so now we're going to qualify who actually love their children based on her standard, though. There are emotionally immature parents who love their children, who also harm them. They do. They may not be cruel. They may not be intentionally abusive. They may be passing down trauma, and they may also love their children, and their children may and likely do feel loved, and they're also being hurt and harmed. Two things can be true at the same time. Snarky, sparky. I'm really hoping that I have the pinned video, and if I don't, just so you know, I'm going to find it.
We are the teachers. We are the therapists. We are the doctors. We are everything that we are choosing to be because we are operating out of love.
Look how we are, because she's obviously a mom, a mother. I don't know if she's estranged or not, by the way. Look at me elevate myself into everything and all things for my child. because I am perfection, the embodiment of it. I know, I'm so snarky. Before this video posts, look backwards for the same outfit because I've been filming a long time, and you're going to see where the ball got rolling for me, where my brain isn't functioning on like full alert here. I don't think I'm doing a bad job anyway. But I am a little bit jumbly because the video that I'm talking about that I did earlier, I'm still in freeze from it. Like my hands are absolutely freezing right now. And it really, the person I covered really destabilized me. Like my body is still going, why did you put us through that? I gotta love complex PTSD, huh? I mean, it is an early warning system for me. Like if I had been connected to that person that I did that video on, I'll link it in the comments. Actually, you don't have to look for it. I'll link it in the description in this video. I mean, the beauty of how big my reaction on the inside of my body is right now, like I'm still shaking a bit, is that I can identify that for exactly what it is. I know exactly what's going on. And if I was in person with that person, I would be gone. Like I wouldn't even think twice about it. I would make sure that I was no longer around that person because my body is in overdrive going, this is a dangerous individual. It's so interesting how we can take these things that kept us safe in childhood and apply them as a superpower early warning sign. So we don't need to be safe. We just need to exit. I never really thought about it live like this before. So I'm unpacking this with you. Yeah, I don't love the feeling, but I love the fact I'm having it, if that makes any sense.
For our child or children. And for that to be undermined and disrespected and taken for granted is not only not okay, but the fact that mothers have that free flow of energy and love to give to their child, the children of this generation, hands down, are taking it for granted. And then when they are called out on it, and they are called to be held accountable, something sinister has been happening in this generation. Something unlike anything I have seen before. You see, when I grew up in the 80s and all the other kids, if something our parents said we didn't like, or we were grounded, which that's definitely not something we're going to like, the only thing that our parents were met with was perhaps maybe a dirty look, and us running to our room and slamming the door shut. That was it. And 10 times out of 10, when we were locked away in our room by our choice because we had our temper tantrum, we had to face ourselves. And 10 times out of 10, we apologized. We knew, okay, we were wrong. And we wanted to see what we could do to knock off the time for our punishment. Instead of being grounded for a week, maybe we can get it down to 3 days. The point is, we recognize where we went wrong. This generation, unfortunately, is filled with a lot of pride, disobedience, arrogance, disrespect. They have a lot of hostility internally. Now, I will say that has a lot to do with their peer group, because there are peer groups that they are surrounded in, our children, that are actually growing up in dysfunction. So when our child or children aren't growing up in dysfunction, they are called to be accountable for any type of wrongdoing, any type of disrespect. They will naturally gravitate towards their peers who have an utter disdain for their parents or parent for being in a dysfunctional environment.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know which age group she's talking about, this generation. I have children between the ages of 33 and 42, and I have grandchildren who are 16 and 19. all of which have experienced grounding, all of which have tried to bargain their time out. Sometimes they took ownership that they knew that they were wrong, and sometimes they were stubborn and they still tried to bargain their time out. I mean, this is just, parenting stuff, and our kids get grounded and they should have reasonable consequences and blah, 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 all the things, right? I didn't experience that. I experienced being punished for having the wrong expression on my face. So, there are differences. One is abusive and one is actual parenting, which is what she's talking about. And she's trying to diminish, it sounds like to me, the adults, sons and daughters of whatever age, when they are pushing back and asking for accountability for things that hurt them, that maybe she found reasonable because that's what was done with her, or it's just part of parenting or whatever. But because I love you and I'm your doctor and I'm your therapist and I'm your this, I'm your that, I'm always right. And, you're just being disrespectful, like the whole thing, the whole theme. What I'm hearing her say is that her generation, which might be mine, we probably are around the same age, weren't allowed to have conversations with our parents and hold them accountable for maybe over punishing us or something like that. And certainly actually my children and my grandchildren, to my knowledge, because I'm involved in their lives in the way that my daughter actually calls me for parenting advice. Things aren't just blindly groundings, and neither were they with my children. I mean, to get grounded, you had to have either a repeated behavior, or I was grounding you because I was trying to keep you away from an influence that I was worried about when you were 13 years old, for example. Middle school, we all joke, was the year of grounding for my kids, because middle school was the time when they were becoming, tweens to teens, and they were trying lots of things out and picking friends that sometimes weren't the healthiest people for them. And so to create a buffer when they crossed the line, grounding was more used as a tool to remove them from the situation, rather as opposed to a tool to say, look what you did wrong. We did a lot more talking, and I wanted my children to regulate and choose the things that they were going to do based on their own self-respect. There's that word kind of thing, right? And so when I'm hearing her, hair is driving me crazy. When I'm hearing her talk about this, the direction that I feel like she's going in is that these young adults, because that's how she's saying it, like it matters. I mean, we can learn a lot from all different age groups, just saying, I learn from people younger than me all the time, and I'm the mama. So those people include my own children who are adults. They are not children. I'm so sticky with words today. They are my daughters and sons. They are no longer children. Daughter and sons. They are no longer children. And I'm really trying to refrain from infantilizing us, the estranged adult sons and daughters. And that's why I'm so sticky with this language right now, because I'm kind of finding my way here. The claim that they're being influenced by their friends to push back because their friends don't like their parents is just utterly ridiculous. My relationships with my adult son and my adult daughters is based on the input they received from me and the foundation that I built. If other people have had an influence, well, for me, the other people that have had an influence on what happened between myself and my mother, the only influence there was them letting me know that, a small child can't be responsible for an adult's behavior, for example, and pointing some things out that denormalized, is that a word, what my mother had done, and actually put it oftentimes into the category of abuse because it harmed me. So by my own definition, and by really societal definition as well, that's about contrast and other experiences. That's not about influence, the way she's trying to put it. And by the way, if you did such a good fucking job building your relationship with your young adults, your children, your property, then why aren't they strong-minded enough not to change their minds about you when somebody comes along and says your parent's a piece of shit? You know what I mean? Like, you can't have it both ways.
For being in a dysfunctional environment. Now, naturally, if they're in a dysfunctional environment, that's an automatic for a child to not be happy and content. But for a child to grow up in a loving home that teaches of love, boundaries, respect, to disrespect their parent and then to cling to this peer group and try to make it as though they are one of them only because they know that that's where they can find commodity and support. No questions asked, because the child who's actually experiencing dysfunction in the home is now meeting a child who maybe just got grounded for their own wrongdoing, but that child's not going to present it as such. Or when they become teens, they're hostile, they're threatening, they're violent. This generation of children hitting their own mother, hitting their own parent, like the violence. So naturally, they'll go over to this other side and say, oh, my mom's this too, or my dad's this too. And they get automatic acceptance without any questions asked. And that's not okay. And it also fuels the lack of accountability. It's truly sad. The self-entitlement kicks in, the lack of regard, the blood, sweat, tears, the mothers. I myself as a single parent working 3 jobs. The things that we do to bend over backwards for our kids, the nights that we spend worrying when they're teens and young.
After all I did for you, how dare you have a mind of your own and critique anything about my parenting or anything that I did to you. That's how she's, that's disrespect. There it is. There it is. How dare you not live in gratitude and obedience? How dare you not appreciate the lessons I taught you, no matter how I taught them to you? I sacrificed. I worked 3 jobs. You asked me to be born. Oh my gosh. And she speaks with such conviction. And that's a part of, I think, what terrifies me about these parents. I don't know her backstory, so.
Teens and young adults, and especially when this behavior that they take on, one of hatred and hostility towards our openness to show love and support, and then they literally bite the hand that feeds because they don't want to be accountable for a misstep or an action that they chose to do that needed to be corrected, that was wrong. Instead, they do not acknowledge any wrongdoing today. So stepping back, I have seen mothers suffering from health issues and ailments because the worry and the stress, but also above all, the betrayal hits hardcore. The betrayal hits right here in the heart. I met a woman who experienced the same thing because this estrangement, parental estrangement, is so real and diabolical today. It's sickening. Who literally suffered from broken heart disease. She started having heart issues because the heaviness of the betrayal and the hurt of her child, her children, 2 daughters, whom she loves so dearly and still loves, as they still operated in disrespect, disdain. On top of that, started spreading lies about her in order for their case to appear right, in order for them to not be judged for their own wrongdoing, in order for them to not hear, how could you dishonor and disrespect your mother in this way? You need to make it right.
How can you tell on your parent for hurting you? How can you disclose the abuse? How dare you do that? And you broke my heart to the point that I had medical issues. I am the victim of you, even though I was bigger than you all throughout your childhood. I am the victim of you after all I've done. Come on. And I have a feeling she's talking about, and I'll cover her, and I doubt this video is still up for me to screen record. It sounds very similar though. There's a mom on the platform. Well, it's this one. And, I have a feeling that this mother struggles with some meds or alcohol, because most of her videos, her eyes look like she's on something. And because there's even a video where she's tripping over a Christmas tree, slaughtered drunk in the morning, and like actually posted it and was laughing about it. I don't know if it's still there or not. I had looked for it because I wanted to use it as an example. And look, one drunk Christmas does not an alcoholic make. I get it. Or a person who is, abusing alcohol, or however you want to word it. Like I said, I'm a little discombobulated, so I apologize. I'm sorry for that. I'm not going to say please forgive me. I'm genuinely, I'm sorry that I'm a bit off today. However, this mother adopted 2 little girls, and they've been on and off with her. They're now adults. One of them has a child of their own. And they let the mom back in on and off and on and off and on and off. And guess what? One of the ons was when she went to the hospital with a broken heart. So I have a feeling that's who she's talking to. And the adopted daughters, I think it was an open adoption, and they've formed a relationship with their biological mother. I don't know where that stands. And, they no longer have a relationship with their adoptive mother. And in watching some of her videos, there was a point where there was going to be a baby shower and all this, that, and the other, and she was invited and then she was disinvited because something happened prior to it. And of course, they don't talk about what that thing is. They just talk about, the result. Like her talking about disrespect, she's not given one example of a child's disrespect, young, adult, or otherwise. She's giving examples of them telling their friends their woes and being believed, kind of thing. That's how she's wording it in from what I can hear. She's not giving any examples as to, what were the complaints? What were the allegations? What was their perspective on the experience? I mean, I believe the truth. I know where the truth lies. I'm very sure of where it is, just on the basis of how she communicates. My point being is that these estranged parents out there that make this content, I'm still waiting for one of them to say, I am estranged because, while I don't agree with this is what my adult son or my adult daughter said to me. They're not giving examples. Why is that? If there's really nothing there other than disrespect, why wouldn't you give an example of what that actually looks like? What do you got to hide? Snarky.
They made everything about her wrong. And this mother broke. Ended up in the hospital. She could care less about the words that were being spoken. It was the betrayal. The understanding that she could not love and hold her children close to her heart and spend time with them based on their actions, their choice. To cast her aside in such a dishonoring, diabolical, disobedient way. And for what cause? So that they could feel better at the end of the day for their own wrongdoing, because they were receiving support from people based on the lies that they spew about this mother. This is not okay, what this generation is doing to their parent or their parents. It is completely unacceptable. We're going to talk more about this topic. There will be a part 3. And my hearts go out to you mothers that are experiencing this type of pain and dishonoring and disrespect from your child or children, because you do not deserve it. You deserve happiness and love, that same happiness and love that you bestowed upon your children who spread lies and hate about you because of their own brokenness that they refuse to correct. So to you mothers out there, do not let it rob you of your peace and joy. You deserve love, peace, and happiness, and to be healthy. Especially after all that hard work you have done. Now it's time to think of you. Take care of you, because it is okay.
She outed herself. She said disobedience. And I don't think she caught it. That's what disrespect means to her. It's disobedience. And after all you did for them and, all the things. So it's all about the hurt feelings of the parent, the mother in this case, and no acknowledgement of the brokenness of the children, where that came from, how that came to pass. They were just filled with love and cared for, and somehow, oopsie, they came out broken, and now they're disobedient. Ooh, disrespectful, I mean. She completely told on herself and her perspective. And even the smear campaign of calling all of these children, young adults, they're all liars. All of them are lying. Only the mothers are telling the truth. And whoever this person is that she connected to that has the 2 daughters, and I do think it's the one I'm talking about, how do you know that her children are lying? Her adult daughters. How do you know that? You just met her. Oh, because the kids are always wrong. The children are always wrong. Anytime that you push back against a mother, you are being disrespectful and you're lying and you're wrong. Tell me you're always going to be an estranged parent without telling me you're always going to be an estranged parent. I did save the pinned video.
This generation of children who are turning against their parents, their mothers, their fathers even. It seems to be all the rage to go on TikTok. That is the youth today who are creating videos disrespecting their mother, their father. Mostly I'm seeing a lot of mothers under attack by their own children. As a mother, we have...
Hold on a minute. Is she not on TikTok disparaging adult sons and daughters? Calling them liars? Seems to be all the rage today for the estranged parents to go on and double down and, call their children liars and disrespectful and all these different things. I'm snarky sparky. That's why I'm dancing so much right now. Come on, lady. And she has some sort of degrees in social work or something like that. I have screenshots and I'm going to play them all the way through, but are you kidding me right now? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to try to get through more than 29 seconds at a time. I'm going to go rest after this. I'm going to take the advice of that one mom who always tells everybody, go rest, moms, go rest. I am going to go rest. There might be a glass of Prosecco in my hand at the same time, but I'll be resting.
We have fed you. We have clothed you. And before I continue down this list, this is where the self-entitlement and disrespect comes in. From the youth. Well, we didn't ask you to do those things. We didn't ask to be here. But you sure are loving the ride. You're sure enjoying the blessings of being here. You got your TikTok. You got your little buddies, right? Truth be told, it is a woman's right to not go to term with a child in her womb.
I should have let you. Can you hear her saying that to her children growing up? You're so lucky I decided to have you to serve my needs. Fuck off.
Any mother who has never abandoned their child, who has carried them to full term, that means they didn't abandon them in the womb and they didn't abandon them outside the womb. Clearly wants their child here. It seems to be that the children of this generation don't want to be here. And that has a lot to do with trauma.
Oh, no, I want to be here. I just wish I had a mom who loved me and cared for me. And she's talking about carrying to term like it's an accomplishment and a favor that she did. You know what I mean? I absolutely want to be here. I love my life. I just wish that I had a parent who was emotionally healthy and could provide care for me, and that I didn't end up in therapy and living on the streets at the age of 13 because of who my mother is and was. I think a lot of us are happy that we're here now that we've figured out how to live a better life, and we realize that you can't be in it because you are our biggest and first bully. Yeah, Oh, but I guess she did her children a favor by having them. And also the reasons behind having children is relevance. Did you have them to have somebody who would always love you and be obedient to you? Because that's what it sounds like to me. My mother had children to tie men to her and to guarantee money. And because it was like ornamental. And what she didn't bargain for was, it's not like a pair of earrings that you can put in a jewelry box. You actually have to keep and sustain the living, breathing thing that you decided to have bring into the world for ornamental purposes, and it fucking backfired. Ay, ay, ay.
Not trauma brought on by the loving parent, but it is brought on by this generation of children who have an incessant need to want to be seen, valued, loved, all good things.
She says all good things at the end, an incessant need. Do we not all have the need and the desire to be loved and cherished and nurtured and cared for, especially from our parents? I mean, that's part of the contractual agreement that they enter into when they decide to have children. And then when they breach and violate that contract, they're shocked because they kept the other part of it and it should have been good enough, housing, food, that sort of thing. That's parenting now for this generation. I can't put it generationally. We're the same generation for this type of mind. I use the term loosely. Okay.
There is so much dysfunction in their peer group. They're not really receiving any of that. In fact, because they're not all even focused on that, because they're too busy trauma bonding over how mad they are that their mother chose to bring them into this world.
Oh, how stupid is she? I'm pretty sure she has some sort of degree that's related to psychology. She just referenced trauma bonding. Actually, where the trauma bond exists, most of us, our first trauma bond, guess who it was with? This. It was completely trauma bonded to my mother. Bonding over trauma and having a trauma bond are not the same thing. Bonding over trauma is that you're sharing experiences and probably, hopefully, providing each other with empathy and a safe space to talk about the things that you've been through and maybe providing healing for one another within a friendship, that kind of thing. Trauma bonding is a systematic type of abuse that is designed to be in power over the other person and have mind control over them, to tie them to you through a dependency, a glimmer of hope that you will love them. And that hope is built on the fact that you fed them and did some things for them. And so when you're punching them in the face, and then saying, let me feed you some soup now, that's where the trauma bond comes in. There's a dependency there for that kindness. Really, it's not kindness, it's grooming, to be tied into that so that when you get them relaxed in that space that you want them, you can punch them harder and then, keep repeating the cycle. It's a push and pull. And for children who have parents who are abusive, we're taught that trauma bond is normal, that becomes normalized for us. And we're taught to continually work for your love. And if we don't give up, one day we're going to receive it and you're going to be the safe person that every now and again you look like you had the capacity to be. Like, she's referencing trauma bonding completely inaccurately and irresponsibly. And I'm not even explaining it well right now. So you know what? On the screen of this video, at some point, I'll just put the definition of trauma bonding, because I really want to make sure nobody out there is confused. And I don't feel like I'm articulating things as well as I normally do.
Their mothers chose to bring them into this world. I can't remember how many years, I think it was maybe 6 years ago, one of the first videos I saw blew my mind away. It was a young girl boasting about how she got a $5,000 bag, a handbag, because her bleep, I'm doing the bleep because you know what she called her mother. She called her mother the B word, wouldn't buy her this $5,000 bag. And she boasted about going on TikTok and getting a sugar daddy. That's real safe to buy her the bag. I believe as mothers, and I'm guilty of this as well, in this generation, there has been.
How is that relevant to anything that she's just been talking about? There's a little hammering. I'm hoping it won't be in the background, but if it is, sorry. A lot of hammering. Of course there is. Anyway, hopefully you don't hear it. How is that relevant? Oh, is there a smear campaign in there because the girl went out and got a sugar daddy? Is that how it's relevant? To like say these children have no morals? Is that what she's doing? Like I'm a little confused about it. What I will say about it though is I'm sad that somebody raised a daughter that had such low self-worth that they thought it was worth having a transactional relationship to get a handbag while compromising themselves and maybe even putting themselves in an unsafe situation. And what would that be rooted in? What would make, she's describing a young woman, place herself on the line for a $5,000 bag. Like, where do you think that young person's upbringing would have any relevance into their decision making in those moments? I'm just curious. I wonder.
There has been a lot of spoiling of our children. You see, because from the 70s, the 80s generation, a little bit into the 90s, we did not have the technology that we have today, all the vast gaming systems out there today. I mean, we have this little controller for like Nintendo, it was just a little cube and a stick, and the graphics were not that great, but we thought it was phenomenal. We had our Cabbage Patch Kids, garbage pail stickers. There were cards, trading cards. But you know what else? We built forts together. We went on long walks in the woods. We actually went in the home when the lights went on, or when our parents would call us for dinner. We could be found at the local arcade. And back then, they actually had arcades in certain convenience stores. Yeah, you'd get lucky to find maybe Pac-Man, like one of those games there. And we would always look for quarters. We would work for quarters so we can go play our video games at a convenience store. And then afterwards, bonus, go get some candy. What is it that I'm describing here? What was it that we were doing that this current generation fails to do today? We weren't trauma bonding. We were not trauma bonding. We were actually bonding. We had healthy bonding. Yeah. We were building up one another, laughing, playing games, building forts. Man, we were even like architects. So growing up in that generation.
So she's within my generation. I think she's a little younger than me because of the Cabbage Patch Kid reference. And what I want to say about that is, yeah, I was doing lots of those things. And then when I went home, I was being violated. Like my mother was so emotionally violent by my own mother. What the fuck does any of that have to do with what our relationships look like within our family systems? Zero. Nothing. She's trying to make it seem like because kids are watching screens and content, they are taking on the experiences they're seeing as made up experiences of their own. You see the lying factor, how she's trying to connect these dots that are completely unconnectable, and that they're trauma bonding. Let me put the right words in there, bonding over trauma, because we actually don't hide in shame anymore. We talk about our life experiences, and this tremendous outing in public, on these platforms, talking about our experiences has given way to us knowing that we're not alone. We're not the only ones. I mean, the only thing that I had was like the movie Mommy Dearest. And I thought, oh, there's one other person out there like me. And so I was still isolated. I had nobody to talk to. If I had, I bet you I would have never, ever exposed my children to my mother, ever. And fortunately, I did go no contact when they were really, really young, like 6 and 3. If I had these resources, I definitely would have walked away earlier, because I would have understood that it wasn't me that was deserving of the abuse that my mother perpetrated upon me and my grandparents and so on. It was because of who they were. And that's the difference. And that's what they can't stand. They're losing control like this, right, left, and center. And if they don't take accountability and they don't do better and they don't learn that they're young adults, old adults, adult sons, adult daughters also have a right to respect and boundary respect and things like that, then it's snip, snip, snip now. And it's not because it's easier. It's because we understand that it's unfortunately in these types of relational situations, relationships, necessary for us to be able to move on and live lives without being abused anymore. You want to keep the status quo, and damn all these social media platforms for allowing people like me to share our experiences so that people like you who are living similar experiences can make more informed decisions about what you do and don't deserve and what you did and didn't deserve, kind of thing. She's so mad. Behind that smile, she's so mad.
Growing up in that generation, I myself in the 80s and other mothers, the things that we have at our disposal today that we never had growing up, we want to honor and bless our children with those things. And our children today have become painstakingly spoiled. They don't even realize how good they have it. They believe that it should be automatic, that they should. Self-entitlement. And then this goes into parenthood. We raise our children. We put a roof over their head because we want them there. We want to bless our children. We give them everything that we could possibly give them, right? In some cases, we don't always give them what they want. We give them what they need when we are in a financial situation and it calls for that. But when we're
No, you give them what you think they need instead of listening to what they need. And I don't know where she's going to go with that, but want, need, like the way she phrased that, I want to point out. And if being spoiled means that we are raising children into adulthood to understand that they deserve to be treated with love and it's not transactional, and that they don't have to be grateful that I put a roof over their head and provided for their needs and things like that, well then color my kids spoiled, and I hope the fuck they are. And I wish I had received that kind of spoiling.
in a financial situation, we're able to bless with more. They get what they want and they get what they need. We are there emotionally for them. We are their doctor, their lawyers, their advocates, their nurse. We are their nurturers. We are mother. It's a powerful role. And this interesting thing takes place when they get...
It is a powerful role. And unfortunately, there are people like her, I bet you. I can't say to what she did or didn't do, but I can kind of get a vibe. Do you get the vibe? I mean, I'm picking up what she's putting down. It is the most powerful role. And either you have the type of mother that uses that to build you up and for goodness and out of love, which is an action word, which is a verb, or you use it for control and your own agenda and your own needs. And then you're shocked as shit when your property actually reaches adulthood and figures out that they don't have to be in the trauma bond with you anymore because they can break the bond. They're no longer reliant on you for anything.
When they get older, think they did it all themselves. And there is some dysfunction in the home. So then you have the ones that are raised in a dysfunctional home, believing that they have a kin, and they all get together and they huddle together and they bash their parents or parent. And they believe that that is called adulthood. They conveniently forget everything that their mother has done for them, father, parents. In this case, like I said, folks, I'm seeing a lot of this going against moms. My mom never loved me. My mom abandoned me. My mom is so toxic. My mom.
And my feelings around that aren't valid. I'm just saying those things for no possible fucking reason, right?
Blah, 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 blah. It's funny. This is only happening in those terrible teen years, of course, but you never heard that. In fact, I never heard it from my daughter's mouth when they had their cell phones paid. They had their phones. My one daughter, she was sick with cancer, stood by her bedside day and night, advocated for her because she was misdiagnosed for 3.5 years and knew that every doctor was wrong and ended up being right because that's something called mother instinct, and finally got the diagnosis, which saved her life. Wasn't talking about any of that nonsense then. Wasn't talking about it when they get the hottest fashion, the favorite perfume, the Ulta makeup, the credit cards, the rides to the friend's house, the sleepovers, having friends over. Listen, folks, we can go down a long list. Every single one, and now I'm speaking to this generation of youth. When you have parents that are there for you through thick and thin, that is not a license to abuse that, number one. Number two, ask yourself.
And being a parent isn't a license to treat your child any way that you choose. I know what it's like to be the mother of a critically ill child. My eldest daughter, who's now 42, who wasn't supposed to see her 9th birthday, has a disease called Gaucher's disease. I'll put it here. She is totally good with me talking about it. And actually in the description of this video, I'm going to put a link over to what's called Base Camp, who provided our family with beautiful memories and support throughout our journey. And my daughter is still affected by Gaucher's disease. She has infusion therapy, so IVs every 9 days, and still has some health struggles and also is doing very, very well. When my daughter was diagnosed, there was no treatment, there was no cure. There were things in the works, which 3 years later came into play around the time when she was 9 years old, and ultimately it saved her life. And she does not owe me hers for advocating for her and caring for her and doing everything that I could to support her health. And when that's my daughter who estranged from me over 20 years ago, and we've been solid for over 20 years, who asked me for parenting advice. There is never fucking ever once, it wouldn't even be a thought in my head for me to throw in her face how I did those things for her, because why would I? I would have been devastated if she wasn't okay. And she weaponizes it. Wow. I feel so sad for her kids.
Number two, ask yourself this question. Were you talking all that smack about your loving mother or father or both when you were receiving the things that you wanted, as well as the things that you need? You weren't. This generation thinks it's cool.
I wasn't talking at all. I certainly didn't talk as a teenager. Well, I also ran away from home and I ended up on the streets during my teenage years. But when I was 17, social services returned me to my mother. No questions asked, by the way. I wasn't not talking about those things because I was receiving stuff. I had beautiful clothes. We lived in a beautiful house and it didn't have furniture half the time. But it looked great from the outside, much like our lives. I went to a boarding school that was amazing. And none of that changed the fact that I was being tortured or softened any of the blows. That was just something that existed because it made my mother look good and maybe sometimes feel good about herself. Again, tied back to the aesthetics of it.
This generation thinks it's cool. It is adult-like to dispose their mother, dispose their father, dispose their parents, to disrespect them. Like, we've wiped your asses. We've wiped your tears. We've wiped your nose. We've checked your temperature.
You owe us, you owe us, you owe us.
The only thing that we ever ask in return is love. The love that we...
No, is silence and obedience and servitude. I would like her to define love. Maybe she does. Let's see.
We give to you. And even when you're not being so loving, we're still there. Are you okay? Please call me. I'm worried about you. Why are you acting like this? Right. That does not sound like abandonment to me. Not by a long shot.
Please call me. I'm worried about you. Why? Who's ever been manipulated through those words? Why, what's wrong with you? What's going on with you? I'm losing control over you. Please call me. Overbearing comes to mind. I'm worried about you. Or somebody else going, your mother's so worried about you because she's leveraged it, to make herself look good. Please call me. I'm worried about you. Listen, sometimes one of my daughters, and it's widely known in our family, goes a little quiet. And do I worry about her? Yeah, she lives alone. I can't stand it when she does it. And I will never give her shit for it. And I will never guilt her for it. We do address it. We do talk about it as a safety issue from time to time. And sometimes she brings it into the room. At the end of the day, sometimes people just need a little bit of peace and quiet and space. And, just because she happens to be my daughter doesn't mean that she doesn't get to do that with me. You know what I mean? It's like they need to have their fangs and their claws into their kids and that control, and I think part of it is if I'm the dominant voice in your head, you won't listen to all these other people who are teaching you things about what I shouldn't have done to you.
Not by a long shot. I think it's time this generation recognize you only get one mother and you only get one father. And if they've been present in your life, you better fix that. You better backtrack, give them the biggest hug, go to therapy, do whatever it is you got to do. Fix it. Because I'm going to tell you something next. This generation is broken. And when your mom and your dad, your parents are no longer around, that's all you're going to be left with. You're going to be surrounded by the broken people that you chose to entertain, because they equally supported your disrespect of your mother or your father or both, just as they themselves have done. That's not something to be proud of. And I promise you, in your 30s and 40s on up, you're going to feel the sting. You're going to feel the impact. Some may feel it sooner than later.
I promise you, or I wish it upon you. And there's a little smirky smirk going on in there, which is making me snarky sparky. The guilt, the death, the life is short, but you only have one mother. Oh, but she's your mother. All the things. Oh my gosh. Like she's killing me. Oh, the worst part about what she said is the reminder that I only get one mother, and that because that's the one I got, I will never know what it's like to have a mom. So she can really fuck right off with that one. She's not done.
Then later. It's not content. It's not creative work to bash your loving mother, your loving father, your parents. We may have had less in the 80s growing up, but that gave us the ability to be thankful for what we did have. Those little nuggets, those little crumbs were enormous in our eyes. Yeah. The more you receive, the less you appreciate. That's what's happened to this generation. And shame on you for that. Recognize that you've been blessed tenfold. And if you still feel some type of way, then that's an internal problem. by which you have to seek therapy, and your parents will be more than happy to be alongside you with that. You don't bash.
You don't bash. Translation, don't speak the truth. Don't tell on me. And your parents will be more than happy to go to therapy with you. How the fuck do you know? You know all the parents because you are mother. You are Mother Earth and Mother Nurturing and Mother All Things Good. I tried to get my mother to go to therapy with me. She wouldn't go. And not only that, when I went at 17 because something happened within the family that pressured her into feeling like she had to take me. She had to look good. She tanked it. She sabotaged it. She smear campaigned me so badly in the first 20 minutes of the first session. I'm 17 years old that I completely shut down. And then she told everybody, I'm pretty sure this is what she told everybody. I don't have absolute proof. I'm just going with what I know of my mother, that I didn't want to go, which wasn't true. I just got that one ruined for me because she also told me because she's paying the therapist, anything I tell the therapist, she was going to report back to her because it wasn't my therapist, given that she was paying her. Like there was a whole thing in there. She'll more than happily go to therapy with you. Fuck you. Oh, I'm on it with the fuck offs and the fuck yous and the fuckity fuck today and the snarky spark. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go get some Prosecco. What do you think of her? She's really got like I'm looking at her on my screen, like those empty, her eyes look a lot like my mother's. My mother's are really super black, like you can't even see the pupil. Kind of eyes, and she's got that haughty, pompous, arrogant smirk above thing to her. Very sad. Very, very sad. I'm glad that her child or children have broken free, and I hope they run like the wind so far away and never look back. And we need to go to therapy. No shit, we are going to therapy. That's the other reason that you don't want to tolerate us, because it didn't work to your advantage. The therapist didn't double down on your messaging, but rather helped us to build our own character and self-esteem and self-love, and gave us perspective on, what we deserve in life. And when we came back and had a mind of our own and recognized that we were deserving, you didn't like it. Telling us to go to therapy. You all hate it when we go to therapy because the therapist is poisoning our mind and we've changed. Did she forget about that part? She probably has a video in there that talks about it. I'm done with her though. Like I can't. And for my own mental health, I should not. And I likely will not. I don't like absolutes. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you soon. If you want healing tips, journal prompts, things like that, check out the join button that's on this video. And either way, if whether you join in the membership or you say, I hope you'll be a subscriber if you're not one already. Thank you so much for being here with me. Again, I'll see you soon.
This generation of children who are turning against their parents, their mothers, their fathers even. It seems to be all the rage to go on TikTok, that is the youth today, who are creating videos disrespecting their mother, their father. Mostly I'm seeing a lot of mothers under attack by their own children. As a mother, we have fed you, we have clothed you. And before I continue down this list, this is where the self-entitlement and disrespect comes in from the youth. But we didn't ask you to do those things. We didn't ask to be here, but you sure are loving the ride. You're sure enjoying the blessings of being here. You got your TikTok, you got your little buddies, right? Truth be told, it is a woman's right to not go to term with a child in her womb. Any mother who has never abandoned their child, who has carried them to full term, that means they didn't abandon them in the womb and they didn't abandon them outside the womb. Clearly wants their child here. It seems to be that the children of this generation don't want to be here. And that has a lot to do with trauma. Not trauma brought on by the loving parent, but it is brought on by this generation of children who have an incessant need to want to be seen, valued, loved, all good things. However, there is so much dysfunction in their peer group. They're not really receiving any of that. In fact, because they're not all even focused on that, because they're too busy trauma bonding over how mad they are that their mother chose to bring them into this world. Their mothers chose to bring them into this world. I can't remember how many years, I think it was maybe 6 years ago, one of the first videos I saw blew my mind away. It was a young girl boasting about how she got a $5,000 bag, a handbag, because her bleep, I'm doing the bleep because you know what she called her mother. She called her mother the B word, wouldn't buy her this $5,000 bag. And she boasted about going on TikTok and getting a sugar daddy that's real safe to buy her the bag. I believe as mothers, and I'm guilty of this as well, in this generation, there has been a lot of spoiling of our children. You see, because from the 70s, the 80s generation, a little bit into the 90s, we did not have the technology that we have today, all the vast gaming systems out there today. I mean, we have this little controller for like Nintendo, it was just a little cube and a stick, and the graphics were not that great, but we thought it was phenomenal. We had our Cabbage Patch Kids, garbage pail stickers. There were cards, trading cards. But you know what else? We built forts together. We went on long walks in the woods. We actually went in the home when the lights went on, or when our parents would call us for dinner. We could be found at the local arcade. And back then, they actually had arcades in certain convenience stores. Yeah, you'd get lucky to find maybe Pac-Man, like one of those games there. And we would always look for quarters. We would work for quarters so we can go play our video games at a convenience store. And then afterwards, bonus, go get some candy. What is it that I'm describing here? What was it that we were doing that this current generation fails to do today? We weren't trauma bonding. We were not trauma bonding. We were actually bonding. We had healthy bonding. Yeah. We were building up one another, laughing, playing games, building forts. Man, we were even like architects. So growing up in that generation, I myself in the 80s and other mothers, the things that we have at our disposal today that we never had growing up, we want to honor and bless our children with those things. And our children today have become painstakingly spoiled. They don't even realize how good they have it. They believe that it should be automatic, that they should. Self-entitlement. And then this goes into parenthood. We raise our children. We put a roof over their head because we want them there. We want to bless our children. We give them everything that we could possibly give them, right? In some cases, we don't always give them what they want. We give them what they need when we are in a financial situation and it calls for that. But when we are in a financial situation, we're able to bless with more. They get what they want and they get what they need. We are there emotionally for them. We are their doctor, their lawyers, their advocates, their nurse. We are their nurturers. We are mother. It's a powerful role. And this interesting thing takes place when they get older. Think they did it all themselves. And there is some dysfunction in the home. So then you have the ones that are raised in a dysfunctional home, believing that they have a kin, and they all get together and they huddle together and they bash their parents or parent. And they believe that that is called adulthood. They conveniently forget everything that their mother has done for them, father, parents. In this case, like I said, folks, I'm seeing a lot of this going against moms. My mom never loved me. My mom abandoned me. My mom is so toxic. My mom
blah, 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 blah. It's funny. This is only happening in those terrible teen years, of course, but you never heard that. In fact, I never heard it from my daughter's mouth when they had their cell phones paid. They had their phones. My one daughter, she was sick with cancer, stood by her bedside day and night, advocated for her because she was misdiagnosed for 3.5 years and knew that every doctor was wrong and ended up being right because that's something called mother instinct, and finally got the diagnosis, which saved her life. Wasn't talking about any of that nonsense then. Wasn't talking about it when they get the hottest fashion, the favorite perfume, the Ulta makeup, the credit cards, the rides to the friend's house, the sleepovers, having friends over. Listen, folks, we can go down a long list. Every single one, and now I'm speaking to this generation of youth. When you have parents that are there for you through thick and thin, that is not a license to abuse that, number one. Number two, ask yourself this question. Were you talking all that smack about your loving mother or father or both when you were receiving the things that you wanted, as well as the things that you need? You weren't. This generation thinks it's cool. It is adult-like to dispose their mother, dispose their father, dispose their parents, to disrespect them. Like, we've wiped your asses. We've wiped your tears. We've wiped your nose. We've checked your temperature. We have fed you. And technically, the only thing that we ever ask in return is love. The love that we give to you. And even when you're not being so loving, we're still there. Are you okay? Please call me. I'm worried about you. Why are you acting like this? Right. That does not sound like abandonment to me. Not by a long shot. I think it's time this generation recognize you only get one mother and you only get one father. And if they've been present in your life, you better fix that. You better backtrack, give them the biggest hug, go to therapy, do whatever it is you got to do. Fix it. Because I'm going to tell you something next. This generation is broken. And when your mom and your dad, your parents are no longer around, that's all you're going to be left with. You're going to be surrounded by the broken people that you chose to entertain because they equally supported your disrespect of your mother or your father or both, just as they themselves have done. That's not something to be proud of. And I promise you, in your 30s and 40s on up, you're going to feel the sting. You're going to feel the impact. Some may feel it sooner than later. It's not content. It's not creative work to bash your loving mother, your loving father, your parents. We may have had less in the 80s growing up, but that gave us the ability to be thankful for what we did have. Those little nuggets, those little crumbs were enormous in our eyes. Yeah. The more you receive, the less you appreciate. That's what's happened to this generation. And shame on you for that. Recognize that you have been blessed tenfold. And if you still feel some type of way, then that's an internal problem by which you have to seek therapy. And your parents will be more than happy to be alongside you with that. You don't bash.
Part 2 to a video I have pinned on my TikTok about disrespectful generation. A generation of children who dishonors and disrespects their mother, their father, or both parents. And it's not okay. I want to get out of the way first about the individuals who were triggered upon seeing my first video in reference to this topic, and they were flipping out about how respect is earned and how their parent is so toxic or their parents are so toxic, and if they want respect, they better give it first. Since when was it permissible, and when did it take place that children, young adults, think that they are the head of household and the parent? When did that happen? Because let me clear something up first and foremost. Respect is not earned. Respect is not some kind of commodity that you can bargain with, you can trade off, that you can buy or demand. I repeat, respect is not earned. You see that? That word earned? Correction. Respect is not earned. It is taught. It is taught by example. It is taught and it comes out automatic. It flows out of you based on the love that you have for yourself and respect that you have for yourself. So you are readily able to give that to another person. So it's when an individual dishonors that free flow of love that they are then to be held accountable, checked for that poor behavior. Love is unconditional, but it does not mean unconditional abuse. This generation of children have no understanding of the hardship, the pain, physical and mental, that they put their parent or parents through. And again, I will reiterate, I see this happening a lot with mothers being taken for granted and disrespected by their child or their children. Because first and foremost, mothers flow automatically with that nurturing quality. Now, let's set the record straight. This video, just like my other one that's pinned at the top of this page, is focusing on the mother, the parents who actually love their children. Mothers are the nurturers. We are the teachers. We are the therapists. We are the doctors. We are everything that we are choosing to be because we are operating out of love for our child or children. And for that to be undermined and disrespected and taken for granted is not only not okay, but the fact that mothers have that free flow of energy and love to give to their child, the children of this generation, hands down, are taking it for granted. And then when they are called out on it, and they are called to be held accountable, something sinister has been happening in this generation. Something unlike anything I have seen before. You see, when I grew up in the 80s and all the other kids, if something our parents said we didn't like, or we were grounded, which that's definitely not something we're going to like, the only thing that our parents were met with was perhaps maybe a dirty look and us running to our room and slamming the door shut. That was it. And 10 times out of 10, when we were locked away in our room by our choice because we had our temper tantrum, we had to face ourselves. And 10 times out of 10, we apologized. We knew, okay, we were wrong. And we wanted to see what we could do to knock off the time for our punishment. Instead of being grounded for a week, maybe we can get it down to 3 days. The point is, we recognize where we went wrong. This generation, unfortunately, is filled with a lot of pride, disobedience, arrogance, disrespect. They have a lot of hostility internally. Now, I will say that has a lot to do with their peer group, because there are peer groups that they are surrounded in, our children, that are actually growing up in dysfunction. So when our child or children aren't growing up in dysfunction, they are called to be accountable for any type of wrongdoing, any type of disrespect. They will naturally gravitate towards their peers who have an utter disdain for their parents or parent for being in a dysfunctional environment. Now, naturally, if they're in a dysfunctional environment, that's an automatic for a child to not be happy and content. But for a child to grow up in a loving home that teaches of love, boundaries, respect, to disrespect their parent and then to cling to this peer group and try to make it as though they are one of them only because they know that that's where they can find commodity and support. No questions asked, because the child who's actually experiencing dysfunction in the home is now meeting a child who maybe just got grounded for their own wrongdoing, but that child's not going to present it as such. Or when they become teens, they're hostile, they're threatening, they're violent. This generation of children hitting their own mother, hitting their own parent, like the violence. So naturally they'll go over to this other side and say, oh, my mom's this too, or my dad's this too. And they get automatic acceptance without any questions asked. And that's not okay. And it also fuels the lack of accountability. It's truly sad. The self-entitlement kicks in, the lack of regard, the blood, sweat, tears, the mothers. I myself as a single parent working 3 jobs. The things that we do to bend over backwards for our kids, the nights that we spend worrying when they're teens and young adults, and especially when this behavior that they take on, one of hatred and hostility towards our openness to show love and support. And then they literally bite the hand that feeds because they don't want to be accountable for a misstep or an action that they chose to do that needed to be corrected, that was wrong. Instead, they do not acknowledge any wrongdoing today. So stepping back, I have seen mothers suffering from health issues and ailments because the worry and the stress, but also above all, the betrayal hits hardcore. The betrayal hits right here in the heart. I met a woman who experienced the same thing because this estrangement, parental estrangement, is so real and diabolical today. It's sickening. Who literally suffered from broken heart disease. She started having heart issues because the heaviness of the betrayal and the hurt of her child, her children, 2 daughters, whom she loves so dearly and still loves, as they still operated in disrespect, disdain. On top of that, started spreading lies about her in order for their case to appear right, in order for them to not be judged for their own wrongdoing, in order for them to not hear, how could you dishonor and disrespect your mother in this way? You need to make it right. They made everything about her wrong. And this mother broke, ended up in the hospital. She could care less about the words that were being spoken. It was the betrayal. It was the betrayal. The understanding that she could not love and hold her children close to her heart and spend time with them based on their actions, their choice. To cast her aside in such a dishonoring, diabolical, disobedient way. And for what cause? So that they could feel better at the end of the day for their own wrongdoing, because they were receiving support from people based on the lies that they spew about this mother. This is not okay, what this generation is doing to their parent or their parents. It is completely unacceptable. We're going to talk more about this topic. There will be a part 3. And my hearts go out to you mothers that are experiencing this type of pain and dishonoring and disrespect from your child or children, because you do not deserve it. You deserve happiness and love, that same happiness and love that you bestowed upon your children who spread lies and hate about you because of their own brokenness that they refuse to correct. So to you mothers out there, do not let it rob you of your peace and joy. You deserve love, peace, and happiness, and to be healthy. Especially after all that hard work you have done. Now it's time to think of you. Take care of you, because it is okay.